BPod Studios.
Toucher and Hardy.
Such an fantastic explosion.
98.5, the Sports Hub.
Hey, we are Toucher and Hardy. Our show is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more with FanDuel. And I got here in time for the big meeting of the minds this morning with the staff. The show staff, to everyone, I guess is staff. It was the people that work on the show. And usually this is before I arrive. Everyone working very hard, and I just waltz in here. And take control. Really, it's like, I mean. But was Johnny Carson the first guy in the office every day?
He was, as a matter of fact.
Oh.
He used to show up at dawn.
It's weird because he was a complete wife-beating alcoholic. You would think the two wouldn't go hand in hand. So anyway,
Well, he'd grab a nap before the show. He was fine.
Okay. Well, it wasn't the sidekick because he was a big boozer too. So what happened? Fill me in on this. We're going to get to the Draymond Green thing, which I am aware of. But there's a big crybaby, Wah-Wah.
Yeah. This happened over the weekend in Detroit. The Orlando Magic were visiting the Detroit Pistons. The Pistons, the worst team in the NBA.
By far.
Paulo Banchero was the number one overall
Washington.
pick in the 2022 NBA draft.
Which shocked me. Wallach and I were talking about this morning. I'm like, Banchero was the number
Yes.
one overall
Yes, he
pick?
was.
Yeah, he was a big
didn't
star.
remember that.
He
At
was
Duke.
a big star at Duke, yeah.
And he was taken ahead of Chet Holmgren, by the
Yes.
way. Holmgren went second to Oklahoma City.
Holmgren, who embarrassingly is playing very, very well.
Yes, he is.
I just assumed he'd die the first time he got on an NBA court.
But Banchero, the number one overall pick in 2022, an all-star this year for the first time, hit the game-winning shot for Orlando to win in Detroit against the worst team in the NBA in an NBA game in mid-February, and they talked to him afterwards.
Okay, so just let's put this in context. So this is Banchero. He's the number one overall pick in the draft. He played in the All-Star game. He went to Duke. That means he's been a star in basketball probably since he's 10.
Right. No exaggeration.
No exaggeration. And there, he was playing in money games in high school.
Sure.
Like, this is he played at Duke where there's a lot of pressure, so this is nothing new to him. All right, go ahead.
Walk me through that play and just how important it was to get that game-winning shot.
And it was important.
All right, he's crying. He's sobbing.
Yes, he
Okay,
is.
so my theory on football players. They're always crying, and I kind of figured that the mix of amphetamines and pain pills is wearing off, and I'm not kidding. I just assumed that, because guys aren't just walking around crying.
Yeah, you're numb from the drugs for so long, and when they start to wear off, you start to feel everything.
Right, and we spend a great deal of time with ex-football players or even sometimes current football players, and for the most part, they're not crying. Like, they seem together. Mm-hmm. And if you talk to them, if you talk to Mike Flynn, like he wasn't live or dying by every game. So something's going on with these guys that they're crying. There's something chemically going on. Because when was the last time you cried?
It's been a while.
Yeah, I can't
Been
remember.
a long time.
It's not like I never do.
Yeah.
And I don't, if you cry, that's great. But, cry with a microphone in your face?
I tell you what, you know when it was? It was last week. It was at the end of that book we were talking about. I welled up.
Did you cry?
No. I had tears in my eyes.
All right. There's a severe, and I will say this to everyone getting mad at me. There is, of course, a difference between feeling the melancholy or getting tears in your eyes and then not being able to speak because you're weeping. Right. This is real pussy stuff.
Okay.
It was important.
He's like, oh, darn it.
It was important. It was a hard game, and I've been sick.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did he have diarrhea?
Yes.
Because sometimes that can make bring a man to his knees. a big old case of the squirts. Bring a man to his knees.
Walk me through the emotions that you're feeling right now to help this team get a win.
Dehydrated.
Well, I'll tell you what, real low. Real low. Everything's wearing off. These doctors are good. They timed it to end right at the end of the game.
It's like those Toradol shots that Zoe used to talk about.
Toradol's nothing.
By the way, I read up on that. I'm glad you brought that up. It's essentially like super Advil.
Yeah, it's Toradol. Okay, so I used to endorse a place that would come and give you an IV if you had a hangover.
Right.
I don't know why they picked me. And they put Toradol in it, and I got like all excited. And then it's not even like a narcotic.
No.
It's
non-habit forming. Well, it's that I don't even want it then. Well, what's the point?
Honestly, like if you're going to get an IV and they're like, ooh, you're like, well, something better be prescription only. And it's just Toradol.
Saline and
ibuprofen. It's saline, ibuprofen, and vitamin B. I mean, that's essentially what it is. It's nonsense.
And in this hard game against the Pistons tonight.
Oh, my God, I'm sorry about that.
It should be. All right, go ahead. I don't know, go ahead.
Oh, my God, I'm sorry about that. It's just been tough, man. I've been feeling terrible. I played terrible. And I just give credit to my teammates, man. They lifted me up the whole game. And so I don't know why I'm crying right now.
Yeah, neither do we.
I don't know why I'm crying right now. It was a hard game, and I'm proud of my team for sure.
He had to step back, turn away from the camera, wipe his entire face with the towel that was draped over his shoulders, turn around again, and continue the interview.
I mean, my son's team just won whatever league they're in, and I did not a tear in the place.
Sure.
And these are some as young as I would imagine. My son's 15.
Mm-hmm.
Not a tear, and it's some kids last go at this. There was a very good player in his team. I believe he was 19-year-old senior, big captain of the team, and I don't believe he was weeping after the game.
Well, the other thing to get to from the NBA over the weekend, Fred.
In fairness, Pablo Ventura is probably 23, but nonetheless,
still a child. Now, there were a couple of quote unquote fights in the NBA over the weekend. The Pelicans Heat one was a little more interesting, and players ended up being suspended over that. Jimmy Butler among them, players suspended because that actually had a separate dust-up after they had separated
Dusty Rhodes.
But the Golden State Warriors fight with the Hornets was not much of a fight at all. It was at the very end of the game. Warriors were up big, and there was this altercation underneath the net because someone from the Warriors, a bench player, was in there trying to shoot a layup. Mm-hmm. And someone from Charlotte took offense to it. Do you know who it was, Wallach?
I don't remember.
I don't know who either one of the players were. But
it's
of
Charlotte.
Course,
there's two guys that we know on the team.
Well, who do you think the guy is that ran over as soon as these two guys started arguing about why you taking a layup when you're already up 13?
It was Dumps Magoo.
It was Grant Williams comes running over to insert himself into this, and then afterward, Draymond Green spent 3.5 minutes talking about Grant Williams in his postgame. Here's about a minute of it.
Yeah, I don't really understand why people get so mad at somebody scoring at the end of the game. It's like this dumb, unofficial, unwritten rule. And so it's kind of like a sore loser type thing. Grant Williams got to stop it. Being this tough guy is going absolutely wrong for him. He's a really nice guy. For some reason, he keeps trying to jump on the unlikable side. And I must tell you, it's not always fun over here. I don't know, man. He need to figure it out. Because, boy, talking too much kind of got you out of Dallas. And he over there talking too much now. So you might want to slow down and stop all the tough guy stuff. I don't know what Grant Williams out here doing, man. That dude is he into it with everybody this year. And then he came over to our bench, thought he was about to have a friend. Ain't no friends for you over here, my man. You got to go down there and talk to your guys. You can't come over here and talk to us about what just happened with our players. No, we support him. Also, I'm really sick of guys with this. Oh, you scored at the end. Bro, you should have did that a long time ago. And pray for Grant Williams.
I will call it. I'll give our show some credit because we knew right away Grant Williams was super annoying. Like, we called that right away. If there's one thing that I will not take, it's saying that this show does not judge character correctly. Because we make sweeping character statements about people, and then they turn out being oddly on point. Eddie Money. Like all on and on and on and on and on. Like there's I can't off the top of my head, but there's like been 50 instances that we've made these. Oh, James Corden. Like there's stuff there's this sense, and it's not only me, but the show has this sense.
Jimmy Fallon.
That's shooting fish in a barrel.
And also Jimmy Fallon his staff is a bunch of wusses. They're like, he didn't like our jokes. Well, that's his job, dum-dum. You know, there's a lot of pressure on the guy. He's the one out there hosting it, you stupid idiots. You know, he'd come in grumpy. Well, okay. Yeah, write better jokes. You write the jokes and then you sit back and there's no pressure on you. He's got to go out and tell the jokes. I'm getting off on a tangent. But first of all, Draymond Green, again, soothsayer, best player in the NBA. And second of all, Grant Williams is like a mixed up teen trying to find his personality. Like, he's going to come out, in goth makeup tomorrow.
He's Peter Brady is what he is.
His voice is changing.
He's going to talk about how he's getting into photography now.
Yeah. He's Peter Brady. He's going to trot out the Humphrey Bogart imitation any moment.
That's
a Brady Bunch reference, everybody.
He had pork chops and applesauce for dinner last night.
Got a Lisbeth, though, for it.
Yes.
Pork chops and applesauce. That was an Oliver. There was Oliver in that one. All right, very good. We have Mark Daniels is going to come on and talk to us about your favorite team, the Patriots, I got Apple Plus.
Nice.
Everyone was talking about Dynasty, so I got Apple Plus.
Mm-hmm. No, we're going to be talking about it.
We're going to talk about it, but I did get the Apple Plus to watch the Dynasty, and it all came down to that. And I'll tell you what, Tom Brady comes off all right in it.
Yeah, he does.
He looks a lot different. I don't know what the hell he did to himself, but he looks, and it ain't stretching.
No, it's has nothing to do with pliability.
No,
it never has.
It's not his diet. He did something, but he had like the best plastic surgery in the history of plastic surgery.
He's almost 50. He looks fantastic.
He looks fantastic.
Thin. He's wearing the right clothing. He looks great.
But no, he's not. He's got sweats on. He and he's thin, but a lot of people are thin. He looks younger than when he was 23. He's done something to his face, and people can make fun of him, but I do it in 10 seconds.
It's not water. It's not just water.
Whatever he did to himself, whatever he's done, whatever surgery he had accomplished, whatever people want to make fun of it, I do it in 5 seconds.
I agree. If you found out it was something simple, it's like, oh, that's just Botox and this facial cream, I would go today and go do it.
I take the surgery in 10 seconds. If they just were like $10,000, we knock you out.
Yeah. The
recovery's 2 weeks, and you look. And I'm afraid you're a fat pig. I understand there's other things to it, but there's a lot of. You haven't been on my dating apps.
The waitress at Legal last night. Here's your crab cakes, you fat pig.
No, it was a guy, and he was wonderful. I think he was a fan. No, I'm just kidding. He was fine. He got a solid 7% tip.
There you go.
I went over my usual 5. I mean, before tax, obviously. Do you ever go out to dinner with someone who tipped before tax? They're generally 70. My parents' friends.
There's somebody when I do go out with them, I always have to sneak back and put more money.
Oh, that's
really somebody who insists on picking up the tab.
There's not a scenario where I will not call that person out. I would never sneak back to the table. I'd be like, "What's wrong with you? You're out of your mind." All right, we'll be back in just a moment with Mark Daniels.
BackstageCountry.com, your online home for all things country music. Country music has so many generous artists who always seem to jump in to help those in need. We're spotlighting 5 who lead by example and lend a helping hand to charitable causes. See who made our list when you text GIVE to 45911. Text GIVE to 45911 and read all about it right now on BackstageCountry.com.
Secondary education.
It's the all-new way for you to wake up. Toucher and Hardy on 98.5 The Sports Hub.
We got a bird fluttering around. He got all on his perch. I opened up Twitter for the first time today because I'm that involved. I'm that above it all. And everyone's like, congratulations on Peter King from retiring. Now, I do hear Peter King on Mad Dog, but I'm like, what's he retiring from? And Wallach got all like his feathers all ruffled. He's like, from MMQB. I go, he doesn't write from MMQB. That's Bert's thing. And then he's like, from SI. And I'm like, he's not an SI. And he's like, You heard it, Hardy. He was all flummoxed.
Was I upset at any point?
Yes.
You were annoyed. You were annoyed. You were annoyed with me.
And I just wasn't annoyed with you. I didn't care what website Peter King wrote for. I really didn't.
But isn't it interesting when there's this big sentiment of, like, congratulations on the retirement? I'll tell you, Volan, Schefter, Breer,
all the big ones,
Abraham,
yeah,
literally everyone at the same time. Like, you can tell when they all wake up. Mm-hmm. I don't know why they all felt like they had to get on Twitter to say it. It's such a weird job. It's such a weird time we live in.
NBC Sports Boston. I had to go look it up. That's who he writes for. No, I'm sorry. NBCSports.com. That's who he writes for.
Well, I mean,
whatever it is.
But then he's like, I don't know. There's a link. This is all off the air, too. This is just John's pressure in regular life. He's not even talking into a microphone. He's just going nuts.
Yes, he writes for Nesson.com. I don't think he writes for Nesson.com.
And I bet you he doesn't even write for NBC Sports, really. NBC Sports is a website?
NBCSports.com.
It's Football Morning in America.
Yes.
That's his column. He has written that for 27.
Yeah. In Sports Illustrated, I know who Peter King is. He's a big-time football writer. I understand who Peter King is. I read him in Sports Illustrated for years and years and years. It's just, did you guys know NBCSports.com was a website?
No, I did not.
How much internet sports do you read a day, honestly?
A lot.
Yeah. So put it like a couple hours?
Yeah.
So I probably spend a couple hours a day reading about sports. No one will believe me, but reading about sports on the internet. Mm-hmm. I have no idea that NBCSports.com was a website.
But I read stuff. I read current stuff all the time, and I read.
That's NBC Sports Boston.
Oh, yeah.
That's not NBC Sports.com. No. Phil Perry and
Curran.
Yeah,
I read them on NBC Sports Boston.
Yeah. I'm aware of NBC Sports Boston. I'd like to be back on the air on NBC Sports Boston.
Would you?
Yeah, I guess I was for not. It was one of those things I just went along with, but I don't think was a good idea.
You mean simulcast? I thought you wanted to sit on an early edition.
Oh, no. I mean, that's above my pay grade. Mark Daniels covers even though they're in Needham now, it wouldn't be as big a pain in the ass. I want to have the show simulcast again. We'd be making a pretty penny by now. I know it was some reason, but I don't know. It doesn't seem logical now. Mark Daniels covers the Patriots for Masslive.com, something I read, unlike this NBC Sports nonsense. Masslive.com. He joins us on the Volkswagen Dealers Expert Hotline. Mark Daniels, would you like to say something about Peter King?
Oh, congrats to Peter King. I mean, I hope I'm covering. I hope I'm employed for that long with this day and age. I mean, it's, props to him. I think he said what, from 24 to 66. He was covering the NFL. That's pretty awesome. It feels rare. I don't know if I'm going to make it that long, guys.
Oh, you'll make. Oh, Mark, don't say that. You'll make it. You'll make it. I'll tell you, you'll make it. All right, so the draft is coming up. Is there any rumblings that you're hearing? Is there anything that we should know about? It's okay if there isn't.
You know what? The week for rumblings, guys, is it's coming. It's coming. I'm actually leaving for Indy in 4 hours, and the rumors, honestly, they start this week in Indy at the NFL Combine, and I'll be there Monday to Friday. The Combine ends on Saturday, but I'd say by this weekend, we should definitely have a general sense of some of the free agents the Patriots are maybe interested in, what the free agent markets are with their own guys, and we'll start to hear some draft rumors. This is the week when people start to report, Patriots met with so-and-so prospect. So in terms of the rumors, I mean, I don't know if I have much for you other than, a couple nuggets here and there, but nothing crazy. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm hoping to go to Indy and eventually break the internet. That's my goal.
Right.
But I think right now what'll be interesting for me is to see how Elliot Wolf sort of, handles his stuff, because it's a new era in New England. And I think with Bill Belichick, it almost got easy. It was a little easy to predict just because we had 20 years of background with the type of prospects they liked, the free agents they liked, and now it's sort of wide open for me. So I'm really looking forward to going down there and hopefully connecting with some, quote unquote sources and being able to tweet out some rumors and come on here and actually give you guys an actual answer.
All right. So what's interesting is Mike Tannenbaum, I heard talking about going down to the combine, and he said, I found this interesting. He said, it's old school, but, they want to meet face to face. And then he gave the example of the Bears trade with Carolina last year, that it comes down like that. They did that, if I'm not mistaken. They did it during the combine week. I think that's when they made that trade, and or around that time. And Tannenbaum said what would happen is that for, say the Bears are trading Justin Fields, that Atlanta and Pittsburgh are the two teams that are interested, that Atlanta and Pittsburgh would just come into the room, come meet the guy and go, here's the offer. There's not a lot of BS. It's like, here's your offer. Just give me your bottom line offer. They give the bottom line offer. They compare the two and take the best one. So he says that's so when Mark says that things are going down at the draft, so you expect actual big moves to be made. That's generally what happens.
Yeah, and honestly, they're not reported this week, but I think there's a reason why, when free agency starts at a certain time on a Monday, Adam Schefter all of a sudden tweets out 5 deals at the same time. It's because they're worked out and sort of hashed out this week in Indy. I mean, all the agents are there, all the GMs, most coaches, a lot of assistant coaches, all the scouts, and really this is when agents learn what their free agents, what their clients will get from other teams. I mean, I've talked to agents in the past who've come away from Indy knowing exactly where their client is going. So really, this is the week that it's what do you call it? You would call it illegal tampering. The NFL has legal tampering that, comes before actual free agency. This is the week of actual illegal tampering where most teams and agents actually get stuff done. And that includes trade talk. So yeah, the Justin Fields deal will be something that is probably talked about. But I mean, for the Patriots, Mac Jones, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if, Elliot Wolf is talking to other teams about someone like Mac Jones this week. It wouldn't surprise me if, he was traded at some point, but this is the week where really you find out, what other teams would give you for, a player like him.
Real quick, and then I want you guys to ask a question, but the Bears made the trade on March 15th. I guess that so right after the combine is when they made that trade, and it was going to go. It was going to be they were going to make a deal with someone else, but then there was the DJ Moore piece. Go ahead.
So, Mark, what would your gut tell you right now in terms of what the Patriots could get for Mac Jones? And does that seem like the most obvious move to make right now if they are, in fact, drafting a quarterback at 3?
Yeah, definitely. I think it'll be somewhere around a 5th-round pick. I mean, unless you want to get, creative and, say, trade Mac Jones in a 6th and for a 4th. I think that's what they did with Sony Michel back in the day with the LA Rams. And I only bring up Sony Michel because I look at a guy like Sean McVay who runs, the West Coast system, and I'm like, oh, would Mac Jones make a good backup quarterback for, say, like Matthew Stafford? So my mind instantly goes there, 5th-round pick. I think the thing with trading Mac is, do they wait for, the draft weekend? Is there a team who doesn't get a quarterback in the end of the 1st or the 2nd round who then says, all right, well, whatever, give up a day 3 pick for Mac? I guess theoretically you could hold on to him through training camp, but I think they're going to reset their quarterback position. I think they'll sign a veteran and ultimately draft a younger quarterback. So it's probably best just to, give Mac a fresh start. Not that I think he would be a bad backup, but I think if you are going to draft a rookie, just pair him with a different veteran and move on. So, yeah, I think ultimately it'll be probably a 5th-round pick. I'd be surprised if it was more.
How much are we really going to learn about the quarterbacks at the Combine this week? I was reading that Daniels isn't going to throw, that Caleb Williams isn't going to throw, but guys like Nix and McCarthy are going to throw. Obviously, I don't think the Patriots going to take either of those last two guys, but how much are we really going to learn?
Yeah, it's more of a dog and pony show. Like we'll get to see these guys like on a podium talking to the media and see how they handle themselves. And for NFL teams, they get, I believe it's 30 players they'll interview for 15 minutes at a time. So really, it's one of the first steps in a long process. Like the Patriots have been scouting these guys for years. Well, they'll finally get to meet them face to face for only 15 minutes. And then after this, they'll have these Zoom calls with certain prospects, and then they'll bring guys into Gillette Stadium for their top 30 visits, which is, I'd say, way more important than a 15-minute, face-to-face at the Combine. But how important is it? I don't know. It's somewhat, because you get to sort of test these guys and see how they respond to your questions, whether they're, stressful questions or, try to test the guy's character. But it's only 15 minutes, so I don't know. I always thought the Combine was a little overrated. I mean, guys are running around in spandex and underwear, and that's not real football. So, in the fact that some of them aren't throwing, it's like, all right, cool. But they're throwing in like shorts, right? They don't have pads on. There's not a pass rush. There's not man coverage. It's okay. I mean, I understand why the NFL does it. They make a lot of money, but it's a little important, but I wouldn't put too much stock into it.
Is there any significance as to who goes to these things from teams and who doesn't? Like, for instance, Mayo is going to go along with Elliott Wolf. Does that really matter?
I think for Mayo being a first-year head coach, it matters so he can experience it and see what it is, and he can sit on in some of these meetings. But you're right. There are some teams, like I know the Rams in years past have kept their entire coaching staff at home. Last year with the Patriots, they only had, it was like their 3 special teams coaches, and I want to say it might have been like Troy Brown and Mike Pellegrino. And we're talking to people about it. They're like, well, at this point, we've already learned a lot about these guys through like the Shrine Bowl and the Senior Bowl, and we've scouted them for 2 years. And a lot of teams put more stock into the longer interviews, which is the Zoom calls and the in-person interviews. So, yeah, no, I think, Gerard's never really experienced it before in this end. I mean, he's scouted before. That's what assistant coaches do, but he's never been the one leading the show. So I think it'll be a good experience for him, especially dealing with other teams and agents.
All right, Mark Daniels, enjoy your time in Indianapolis. Try to keep control in the City of Lights.
It's going to be tough, guys. You know what they say about Indy? It's like the Vegas of this region of the country.
It's the Vegas of Central Indiana.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, it's. I mean, Bloomington is really like the Lake Havasu. Mark Daniels, thank you, sir.
All right, guys, thank you.
All right, there you go. Read them on Masslive. Pellegrino, yeah, the only Pellegrino I like is the water.
He had a subscriber-only article about the veteran tight ends, and I was going to ask him about it, but then I didn't want to blow up his spot in that of the website by discussing privileged information. It's like you and your ESPN insider status. There's only so much he's allowed to reveal.
I am really fascinated that you guys do not have insider status to ESPN, even though that gets you ESPN Plus. If you have ESPN Plus, you have insider status. I can't believe you click on those articles and it says that you need to pay to read the rest of the article, and you just go and you go about your life.
How many times a day does that happen to you?
A lot.
Yeah.
Because it's all draft stuff. All the draft stuff's behind the paywall.
Where you get to a site and it says you got to pay for this.
Not like ESPN that I go to every day several times a day. Like if it's like the Free Press or something, like the Detroit Free Press, I'll just go, okay, I won't read it.
All right, how much is it? How much is your ESPN Insider?
$5,742
a week.
No, for the year. For the year.
Oh,
yeah, and it's
a
worth
little
every
more
penny.
manageable.
All right, when we come back, Hardy sent me actually a funny text that's worth exploring, and also I just looked at Peter King's article, and he's got his freezing, idiotic takes. The guy's worked for 40 years. He said some doozies. These will knock your socks off.
Oh.
They're real. He really, the self-effacing nature of this Peter King column is something else.
Is he comparing craft beers in any of them?
I haven't. There's. You would have to. My index finger would break from scrolling.
Oh, okay.
This thing's so long. They've been nice enough to put it into chapters with yard line markers, so you can just jump around.
Okay.
All right, here are the headlines.
BackstageCountry.com, your online home for all things country music. Lainey Wilson is on a roll. She's delivering great music and teaming up with some of country's hottest acts. Text Lainey to 45911 to see which 4 Lainey Wilson collabs have us talking at BackstageCountry.com. Text Lainey to 45911 to get a link to the list sent right to your phone from BackstageCountry.com.
It's the all-new Dodger and Hardy.
Whatever, man.
On 98.5 The Sports Hub.
Is this I Need a Lover That Won't Drive Me Crazy?
No, this is Death or Glory?
It's a group called The Clash. Death or Glory.
Yeah.
Off what album?
Meet the Clash.
No. And this ain't off London Calling.
Could be off Sandinista.
All right. You know he ran the 83 London Marathon, Joe Strummer?
No. Everybody knows that.
Right.
Everybody
Raise
knows
a glass
that.
to great Joe Strummer. Sometimes I think he was my only decent teacher. Getting older makes it harder to remember.
It's on London Calling, Fred.
Oh, it is on London Calling. Oh,
I only know that
my
song.
bad.
Well, I first heard of that song when Social Distortion covered it, which is going to be the poison to people's ears who love the Clash. But I did not know London Calling, front to back. So the first time I heard that song was the Social D cover.
All right, so Peter King is. I opened up Twitter just about 20 minutes ago for the first time, and every writer is saying congratulations to Peter King. He's apparently retiring from what? We've done investigation and found that he wrote for NBCSports.com, which the three of us collectively did not know was a website. I knew NBCBostonSports.com. I didn't know that there was a parent site for it. So it's Peter King. And if I told you Peter King has a section of his column, the last section, it's called Newman with an exclamation point, you would assume that's like a Seinfeld reference. I don't want to lead you in any way. What would you assume Newman was?
Alfred E. Newman. His whole thing is like, what, me worry?
No, it's not just about kicking back and relaxing.
No?
What Newman, it's an email segment called Newman. What would you assume?
Something that he did that was annoying, something that he found that bothered him.
Right, because Newman was Jerry's nemesis on the show. Would you like to read his final columns, the emails that he put in?
Yeah.
From Sean of Dublin, Ireland. Great insight on the Mahomes draft. Love learning about the history of the game and stories from the past and present on the NFL. I lift my pint of Guinness to you.
Okay.
Because he's from Dublin.
I see.
Oh, he drinks the Guinness beer in Ireland.
Yeah, because I imagine everyone you talk to from Guinness, from Ireland, is just like, hey, I lift a pint of Guinness to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Slanja.
Just like everyone from Cincinnati is like, I'm shoving a bunch of garbage chili in my mouth with pasta. He says, I may have a chance to lift one. You might have a chance to lift one with me.
Oh,
Sean.
Hey!
I'll be making an appearance in Dublin on March 28th with the folks who run the Irish NFL show. What do you got to figure that, I mean, it's like Thin Lizzy getting back together. It's like the dude with the fro coming back.
From your lips to God's ears. If
Well,
that chick don't want to know, forget her.
I mean, what are they? How are they going to do crowd control when the the actual king, walks into a bar in Dublin?
I know Peter King, and we talk about Peter King and Peter King. I'm pretty sure Peter King could walk into this studio right now, and I wouldn't know it was him.
You could smell him. Here's how it's finishes. Was all those Guinnesses. He says, "Here's a nice haiku and a thank you from Gary Kugler." This is the last email that he concludes. Season's last haiku. Peter King swings from the fence, hits a grand slam home run.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. It's a man who everyone's congratulations on your retirement. Maybe a little too late. Would you like to know, the man's been writing for 40 years. He's been covering the NFL for 40 years. He's not afraid to take the pee out of himself. Would you like to hear some of his freezing, idiotic takes?
Sure.
Uh-oh.
Okay, he says, the
Sure.
worst forecast I've made in my 4 decades. This man's been writing about the NFL for 4 decades. He's not afraid to be a little self-deprecating.
Okay.
And these are even worse than I remember, with apologies to the freezing cold takes people. So this man has been covering the NFL for 40 years.
Long time.
40 years. I mean, we're talking about like thousands of columns, tens of thousands of predictions.
Probably.
Would you like to dig into this? He really lets himself have it.
Yeah.
In 2003 Fantasy Football Convention, Red Wing, Minnesota. So you know this guy's been around the world from London to the Bay.
Red Wing, Minnesota.
Yeah, he's in Red Wing, Minnesota, which is, I mean, how many girls can have the periods at the same time? He says, if you can't. It was a
That
very,
is unnecessary.
It was a
Red Wing,
very specific convention.
But you don't need to conjure up that type of a
I
thing.
just thought of it, and when your
Fred.
brain operates like this, Hardy, one can't resist. It was the Red Wing, Minnesota, named after a town of very, very giving men. Without anything. If you can't get one of the stud quarterbacks in your draft, Manning, Favre, Warner, Gannon, solve your running back and receiver needs, then pick up Danny Werfel of Washington. One guy in the audience didn't let me get away with that wisdom. You're smoking crack, he yelled.
What?
Can you believe this
I don't even know
moron?
what the hell he's talking
Can
about.
you believe this moron at a fantasy convention in Red Wing, Minnesota said to take Danny Werfel in your fantasy draft?
He led with that one.
Yeah.
Of all the mistakes
40
I've made,
years.
That 40 years.
years.
He's been around a little bit.
This guy-
That's the first thing that pops into his head.
You know he's an a-hole. You know he's a total a-hole. Like, I mean, come on. In 2010, he wrote, you want the next face of the NFL, it's Cortland Finnegan. From the moment of that prediction, the Tennessee cornerback never made a Pro Bowl or an All-Pro team and had 7 interceptions in his last 6 NFL seasons. I mean, what a jerk.
So he incorrectly identified a corner in the NFL as being good.
Yeah. And then there's a legitimate one. And then in 2004, he says, I think the Cowboys got a great deal in Drew Henson. I wrote after Dallas traded a 3rd-round pick to Houston for Henson. Remember Drew Henson growing up? Drew Henson was a big star in Michigan.
Oh, yeah.
Two-sport kid. Signed with the Yankees, remember? I wrote after Dallas traded a 3rd-round pick to Houston for Henson, then signed the former Michigan QB to an 8-year contract worth $3.4 million guaranteed. Henson threw a total of 98 NFL passes and started 1 game in the league. So he put himself on a cliff like that saying, what's up with these guys trading the 3rd-round pick? I mean, what a swing and a miss. Is this really is he like the most brilliant man in the history of football?
I mean,
is he made literally tens of thousands of predictions, and this is the worst crap he could conjure up? A fantasy football prediction and that a 3rd-round pick for Drew Henson? This doesn't seem self-deprecating at all to me. This seems like mine. I didn't think Tatum was going to be any good. I can tell you a horrible one right off the top of my head.
How about coming on the air the day after the Monday Night Football loss that the Patriots had to the Chiefs, and then not only going on the air, but going on one of those NBC Sports Boston shows and saying like, yep, the Patriots are over. This is it. The dynasty ends here. Mm-hmm. They stink. They're no good. Tom Brady doesn't have it anymore. I said that.
Yeah.
They
so that off the top of your head.
They were done in 2014.
Well, I mean, the guy's obviously a genius.
That's a bad take. But this?
All right. Well, now this is his number 5, and this is the last one.
Okay.
This is him going over. He's going. No, I already gave you number 1. It was the Danny Werfel.
No, he reversed it, Fred. He's ramping up. 5 is the gimme. 5 is the one that's really egregious.
3 is one where he says that he could see the Colts trading their pick in '98 that they took Manning with. So that's a legitimately like kind of bad one. It's not even that bad because it's like a fence sitting one. Mm-hmm. Like where he didn't say not to take Manning.
No, he's saying he could see them doing it.
Right.
Okay, whatever.
I mean,
whatever.
but this is a guy trying to be self-effacing. This really makes me not like him. Like, if you're going to be self-effacing, just be self-effacing or don't do it. Yeah. This is basically a long way to go to say I never made mistakes. 2008, I picked Jacksonville QB David Gerard, second in my NFL season MVP voting. Gerard was close. He went 5-11 and was the league 22nd rated passer in 08.
Wow, I feel bad for him. Big swing and a miss.
I mean, when Peter King laid it on the line with his preseason MVP voting,
I'm perfect, everybody.
I mean, he had him as second in his preseason MVP voting, and then the guy went 5-11. I mean, that's not even close to being MVP quality. Surprised he didn't say I had Tom Brady in the year he got hurt, and then he got hurt, and then there was egg on my face. This is the 5 biggest things. You want to hear someone who got the joke? A guy that I know had texted me, and he said, easy on Red Wing boss. And I thought he was going to say something interesting. And he said, his heritage is steeped there. One of his relatives was the mayor. I don't think he got the reference to the Red Wing.
Well, he's going to have to investigate that on his own.
Yeah.
That's one of those things you can't
explain.
No, you can't even begin.
You're either down with it or you're not. You understand what I'm saying? So congratulations to Peter King as he calls it a career, even though I assumed he had called it a career.
Well, that much egg on
10
his
years
face.
ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's not enough wipes to get the egg off his face.
Really put himself out there.
I mean, these are real. Boy.
What?
That's all he could come up with. That in a haiku that said he hit a grand slam.
The best part about it is that he actually sat down and thought, okay, I need to add something more to an 11,000-word column. And why don't I stick in this?
And you know he remembers stuff he said that was ludicrous. There's no way. Like, he does appearances on television where his whole thing is making predictions. There's got to be a million horrible predictions
Easily.
that he knows off the top of his head. We all know when we've taken a chance and predicted something and it's been completely wrong. We all know. Like, I know off the top of my head the terrible missteps that I
wonder
said.
what the turnout's going to be for that appearance they're doing in Ireland. Like, if you send, like, Stephen A. Smith to Ireland, like, that'd probably be a decent turnout, but it's not going to be thousands of people. You're talking about an American sports commentator going to Europe and trying to draw a crowd. How many people is Peter King going to get at his thing?
I don't know. I mean, he's going to get Gary Kugler, who wrote season's last haiku. Peter King swings for the fence, hits a grand slam home run. And Peter says, well, that's a lovely sentiment, Gary. Much appreciated. And then Gary went back to shaking back and forth in the corner of the asylum where he's caged.
What's the first line of the haiku? Because you give me the last two, 7 and 5. Is it a 5?
Season's last haiku. Peter King, that's the first line.
Season's last haiku. Okay.
Peter King swings for the fence, hits grand slam home run. Can you imagine what Gary Kugler's life is like? He's writing haikus and sending them to Peter King on the hopes of them getting published. Do you think he's an adjunct professor at Harvard?
I think he's
a poetry professor at Harvard, and he's pacing the halls just wanting to get published, and then finally Peter King has granted him his wish?
I think he divides his time between writing uncommissioned haikus and also learning origami.
Okay. I just wonder if this is like some new literary, if like one time we're going to look back and Gary Kugler is winning a Nobel Prize or a Poet's Laureate or something.
Back in our BCN days, I used to get contacted by the Poet Laureate of Cambridge, who asked me to contribute something to something he was putting together for the town of Cambridge.
Huh, really?
Yeah, and that was like an actual appointed position at the time.
Yeah. So was he a Harvard guy?
I don't know if he was affiliated with Harvard or not.
Okay.
But I submitted a haiku for that.
They wanted haikus, and he was a poet. Because that's usually what they write is haikus, the really good ones.
Yes. You have to really know what you're doing. You have to be able to count 5, 7, and 5.
Because I'm listening to this book right now from a lady that was a poet in Cambridge by name of Mary Carr, and I'm enjoying it a great deal. So if you know Mary Carr, tell her congratulations on the book. All right, when we come back, have you watched this dynasty thing that the Patriots are up to?
Yeah. I have.
Yeah, so have I. I paid for Apple Plus. I gave in For you guys, really.
Wow.
So I could contribute
Can't
to these.
believe you didn't have it before now.
Yeah.
Freddie Team, man of the people.
Ted Lasso, I abhor the idea of it. I don't like Ted Lasso, but I won't watch it, but I have the service of which it exists. We'll talk about the new ones coming right up.